world gives you. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not be afraid. Hold on to that peace. Sandie loved you deeply. The love that's not handed, it's only changed form. Now she's with you in every quiet moment, every memory, every breath of comfort that comes when you need it the most. And one day, in God's perfect timing, you'll be with her together again. Since I'm on the Michigan roll, I also want to acknowledge my two sons that are here with us today, Danny and Joseph, and their wives. While Sandie may not have spoken with them often, I can attest firsthand, and so can Chris. She followed their lives since since their childhood. And that was through Chris. Always asking, always caring. In her heart, she saw them as her own. Her love extended far beyond conversation. It lived in her thoughts, her pride, and her constant quiet support. At this time, I would like to see if there's anyone that would like to share. Apologize. That would like to share some thoughts, some stories, funny ones, sad ones, needs to, if it brings comfort to anyone. I would encourage you to do that now. And I'm going to ask Santo at this time to first come up and share a couple of stories that Christina shared with me that I wrote down, and then one that Jake and Christina shared with me as well. And I felt that perhaps at this time, their best healing process is to just sit and be calm and be at peace. So I'm going to ask Santo to come up here and read their stories.
Good afternoon. Thank you all for being here. I'm Santo, Sandie's brother. I live in Michigan, so really I'm so grateful to see the people that she loved, and you were all a part of her life all the time. Before I tell the stories, Sandie, from when I grew up, she was my godmother. She was my cousin, and we always had fun and told stories and shared experiences, and it wasn't until adulthood when I was blessed to find out that she was my sister. And if you look at the pictures, I mean, come on. I mean, let's be real here. And there was no surprise when she called me and told me, because she told me in a very Sandie way. Hey, Santo, yeah? Guess what? I swear, I said, what, you're my sister? She goes, did Uncle Vince tell you? I was like, are you serious? So that's how that connection came to fruition. And I failed as a family member, as we all have. We're all flawed. I have failed as a cousin, an uncle, as a son, and as a brother. And it was all because of fear of allowing people to get close, because they're not always there. And when you need them, they might be gone. And footprints in the sand means a lot. My uncle has told me that a lot. I've heard that story a few times. And that fear caused me to always send that, and whoever it is, that call to voicemail. Oh, I'll get back to them, or I'll go to the next family function, or I'll be there for the next birthday. That next birthday might not come. And put that fear away live life, love fully. If there's one thing I can say about Sandie, first word that comes to mind is relentless. She loved relentlessly. She lived life relentlessly. She called me relentlessly. And unfortunately, I spoke with her more since April than I had since I found out she was my sister. But she knows that my love for her is very, very deep. I know she knows. And to my niece and nephew, I love you just as deep as your mom loved me and as she loved everyone else. I pray that I'll be able to show it more. But yeah, she was relentless. Relentless for life, relentless for love, relentless for family. And don't ever forget that. It'd be impossible to forget her anyway. So I have a couple stories. Several years ago, this is from Christina. Several years ago, when Jake and I were still in elementary and middle school, we would go to the condos our parents and grandparents had for a few weeks over the summer, and then go up on the weekends, just a couple times during a month throughout the rest of the year. Well, one time, we went up around the time of our birthdays, September-ish, but didn't realize there was a storm rolling in, and it came out of nowhere. So we ran to the grocery store and stocked up on some food, and then headed back to the condo. Later that evening, we were all going a little stir-crazy, and Mom went to sit down in a chair that was in our room. The chair was a wicker basket-style chair, that I guess part of the wicker was coming undone, and when Mom sat in it, she fell straight through that chair. Her arms and legs shot up. I know you can all close your eyes and picture Sandie right now, like folded in half, basically, feet sticking up. And because the way she always has been and the humor of the family, basically the kids couldn't stop laughing for 5 to 10 minutes. And really, she just stayed there until their dad could come help her out. After that, they forgot all about the storm. And it's a story they've been laughing about to this day whenever they think about the condo. This is from Jake and Christina. And as you all know, Sandie was involved in a lot. And when she got involved, she gave her all. So there's a little story. Ma was very involved in everything we did. One of her favorite things to do was to take photos of Jake playing football. She was one of the parents who always helped organize things for the team and help put the football team meals together. She would also take photos for the football team down on the field, as well as to put together some fun off-the-field senior photos for those who couldn't afford senior football photos. But before any of that, Mom always threw parties for Chris's friends who were also involved with the football team. She'd always rent one of those big blow-up bounce houses. One of the favorites was the blow-up slip and slide. So you'd run, jump down the slide, and there was a drop at the other end, which would have tarp on the ground to avoid sliding into the grass. Well, Ma decided she wanted to get some fun photos and videos of everyone on it. So she was using her camcorder, and a couple of the guys decided to run and slide at the same time. Well, Ma was so focused on catching the video that she forgot to move away from the end as they approached, and you got 2 football players that took her out at the knees. Again, you just close your eyes and you picture butt over heels, Sandie, right? When they watched the video back, it sounded like they had broke Mom's bones with all the snaps and pops. Of course, she was okay. She was just covered in soap and water from the slip and slide, and of course sore for a few days after. But from that time on, she never videoed standing that close. She'd use the Zoom function instead. Again, thank you to my Uncle Vince for leading this. Thank you all for coming. And just don't let time go, if that's one lesson, because tomorrow's not guaranteed, but today is. So hold that hug a little longer, let that conversation go a little longer, laugh a little harder, and just be grateful for the time that we did have with Sandie, because it changed my life forever. So thank you.
Thank you, Santo. At this time, if there's anyone that would like to come up and share a story, I'd like to share a story. This would be the time for you to do so.
Santo, when you first came up, when you stood up, all I saw was Sandie. Before they even, all I saw was Sandie. Guys, it was 1986. I was the new kid in Osceola Nazarene Academy, and there were two people. There were three people: Pastor Otis, Tracy Joyce, and Sandie. Let me tell you guys something. I was 9 or 10 years old. I was scared. And the person who Sandie is, I'll never forget for the rest of my life, and I haven't. She was a great person. You can see it in every picture she took with those grandkids. And I don't live here in Florida anymore, and I'm glad I'm here. I'm glad I didn't miss this. But she was pure love, and the world lost a little light today. That's all I have.
I'll get a grip here in a second. My name is Mady. Easier. It's not. Sandie and I became friends in 1980, so quite a while ago. We first moved to Florida. We moved next door to her Aunt Kathy. I see her grandkids here. And she looked like my grandma. And she came over with food, as the good Italian family does. And she said, my niece is moving to Florida. You guys are going to be the best of friends. And she was right. Some of the crazy stuff we did. Oh my gosh, Aunt Josie would have been, she was all over it. Yeah, probably shouldn't tell that here, but we'll skip that. But we were kids, and Aunt Josie smoked, and we thought we could too, so we found out the hard way we'd never do that again, much less take her cigarettes, that's for sure. So, oh my gosh. But we had a lot of fun together. I remember putting Danny and Joseph in the back of the three-wheel bike baskets, running up and down. Joseph, you might have been too little, you might not even remember, but we had a lot of fun, different things going, we went to the beach a lot. We did a lot of things, literally through thick and thin, physically and mentally in every possible way. She couldn't wait for you. We'd go to Aunt Pearl's house, Sandie's house for Thanksgiving, for Christmas, anything possible where baked ziti would be available. I actually met my husband at their house. Didn't know that. So I don't know how many years later, we realized that his family was there. Gosh, this is hard. I don't usually get this crazy. Oh, goodness. We had so many fun times together. Some I won't share. One of them I'll definitely share. I think we skipped school and went to the beach one day, and she had a cool little Mustang, so we filled that up. We decided to get a cooler. We got little crab sticks and the worst possible things to eat at the beach, and we knew we had snuck off to the beach, so we didn't take the cooler back out of the trunk when we got home because Pearl didn't know where we were. And about a week later, that cooler spilt in the car, and it still had the crab sticks in it, and I can't even remember what else was in it, but the stench in her car was the worst. I think she ended up trading that car in and getting rid of it because it was stunk so bad. But we had some good moments, and then we would see each other all the time, and then it was like we didn't, but we knew we were always there. Going through life, kids growing, taking care of the kids, and then my kids, and we had some fun. As our kids grew, we went on a cruise. I think it was last year for my dad. And there was 9 girls and my dad. And my dad loved it. And he was going through the same thing with cancer. And we doted on him. We had the best time. We had talked about going on that cruise for 40-some years. We went on Sea Escape back then. It was a day cruise. And we thought we could go on more cruises, but we finally made it. It should have been a lot more. But I'm going to miss her. Thanks for seeing all my old O&A buddies out there and family and friends that have come. All right, thank you.
How do you do? You might have to stand here.
Yeah, no,
Put my hand on your
no
shoulder.
problem. I'm short enough next to you.
I got crazy legs, so if I try to stand by myself, I'm bouncing all over. It's like I'm doing the Macarena, But if I can touch something that's on the ground, I'm pretty stable. But my name is Russ Messina. I'm here from Michigan. I had something I had to do in Michigan yesterday, and so it was a little tricky trying to get down here in time, but I made it. I'm glad, very glad. But Aunt Pearl and Uncle Joe were my, they were my aunt and uncle, and I wanted to let you know that even though, it was kind of a unusual family, because my name is Messina, and their name is Figlioli. Well, my dad's parents both died before he was old enough to remember them, and so he was raised by his aunt, Mary Figlioli, who married a Figlioli, and her husband. And so my dad was raised as a brother to Uncle Joe, Aunt Pearl's husband. And but there was always, we see all these things that happen in families, but so I was like 13 before I knew my grandfather, Uncle Joe and Uncle Joe's parents. I was 13 before I knew that he was my uncle, not really my grandfather, But there was always this, love in the family. They raised my dad, and my dad always treated Uncle Joe and his sister Aunt Mary as his brother and sister. And I was like maybe 3 or 4 years old when I was the ring bearer at Uncle Joe and Aunt Pearl's wedding. And I can remember my parents telling me the story that I was up there, close to the altar when I motioned to my mother. I said, "Mommy, I gotta pee," So they weren't sure what to do at that point, but I made it through. But Uncle Joe and Aunt Pearl were always very loving and very, into our lives. And they'd come over and take us out for a ride. And even my sister and brothers, who were quite younger than me, they lived not too far from them, and they spent a lot of time with them. And so, I know Aunt Pearl had a heart as big as you can imagine. And I actually lived with Aunt Pearl and Uncle Joe and Sandie for 2 summers while I was in college, and I was working in a warehouse downtown, and I lived closer to one of my college fraternity brothers, and we could share a ride and go down and go to work together. But I don't know how Katrina got her mom's heart, but I don't know whether she inherited it or whether she just picked it up on the job. But I know she has a big, beautiful heart. Sandie had a big, beautiful heart, like her mom. And it kind of occurred to me last night while I was trying to go to sleep in the motel that maybe I'm the one here that knew Sandie the longest. Maybe not the best and the closest to her, because I was in Michigan and our family were so far apart. But I knew her shortly after she was born, and when I was living there with Uncle Joe and Aunt Pearl in the summertime, Chrissy was there too a lot, and we got in a few little scrapes. One Chrissy and Sandie were gonna make a cake one day, and they threw all the batter in the bowl, and Aunt Pearl wasn't there, and they turned on the mixer a little too fast, and it went all over the kitchen and up on the ceiling. We had to clean it up before Aunt Pearl got back. I think Aunt Pearl found out sometime years later about it, but I don't think she knew for a while. So, I felt close. I felt compelled to come today because even though our families were long ways away from each other, and I wasn't, in Sandie's life that much, about 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, I had to come down here on business, and I called up Wade and Sandie. We went out to dinner. We had fun, but we were at one of those hibachi steakhouses, and you sit in a line and you can't talk to each other very well. So afterwards, we went to an ice cream shop. We sat there for a couple hours, really yucking it up and have a lot of fun. But I was glad for that little bit of time, and I just wanted to let you know that the Messina side of the family still thinks of you. We don't see you much, and I kind of thought this might be one of my last chances to connect with my Florida relatives. And because, Sandie's gone, Aunt Pearl and Uncle Joe are gone, and you guys are still here, but we don't have a real close relationship with you, but we still love you, we still care about you. And we hope, you know, if you ever come to Michigan, you'll let us know, because we'd love to see you. I think that's about it. I feel like I'm leaving something out I wanted to say, but I appreciate your patience to listen to all this. But thank you very much, and I'm extremely glad to be here. And thank you for your shoulder, Vince.
You're very welcome. Thank you, Russ. I've known Russ for many years, many years. Chris has known Russ most of her life. And Pearl's sister, Aunt Josie, that Meady was referring to, it's Chris's mom. That's how I met Chris. You know, when you talk about Aunt Pearl and the big heart, when I came to this country, I wanted to live with them. And Sandie was already 5, and like I said, we were there. You know, and then every now and then, Chris would show up in the